We're good? Good morning. Let's begin the February Park and Tree Committee meeting. We started off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call.
All right. Deborah Sue? She said here. Lena? Tucker?
Present.
Wally Shreves?
Present.
Bob Dalton?
Here.
Nancy Patton? Here. Nancy Curtis will not be here today.
Time reports, if anybody has them, please email them to Angela so she has a physical record of it. You'd review the meeting minutes and we get motions to approve.
I make a motion. I second.
We have a motion and a second. Minutes approved. If there's anybody out there that would like to have a public comment, now would be your time. I guess not. Let's move on to Beautification Committee. Bob, you get any updates?
I do.
All right.
I met with the group on the 10th, and Dominique was down there also from Public Works, and we met at the bridge. Basically, the update was that they had ordered 1,400 plants already to be delivered. I think it was in May 9th, I believe. And then they also looked at the idea of putting some baskets in Sankey Park, 6 to 8 baskets, if I remember right. The idea there was to add some color to the park, but where do they put the baskets? And I think they were looking at the light poles, I believe, if that was a possibility of putting a bracket on the light poles and maybe hanging some baskets there. It was also discussed if they did put baskets in the park, how would they water them? You know, this is a hand watering issue, or if they could, I don't know, that's Public Works thing with lines and that in there, but and then the other end of that too is just continuation of needing volunteers to help plant flowers and do some of the work, because they're pretty limited on people power. So that's pretty much it.
Hold on one second.
They have a date for the planting?
Let's see, the plants were the 9th, and was it the 10th is what she said?
Yeah, somewhere.
I think it was the 10th, May, the 10th.
Of May?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Second Tuesday.
Deborah, you are muted and I can't unmute you from here for some reason. Can you look to see if you can unmute yourself? I can't hear a single thing you're saying because you're muted, so.
Can you see the mute button, the microphone button, and click it, Deborah?
Unmuting.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, crisis averted. Now we move on to Whittle Bridge. That was a great response you had back from them.
Actually, just finally got in touch with the Public Works Director. He's, I'm sorry. I was able to get in touch finally and had a long conversation with the Public Works Director for state. And they have one bridge, and they had a couple of others that they work with the county on in their area. County has a program, but he found it was difficult to find somebody just to flat come out and inspect it. And so he eventually, if you saw the documents, he used an engineering firm that kind of gave him an idea of some of the things that were going on. He also found a good response from local wood or bridge and timber type people that do different types of structures throughout Oregon. And they've been able to be, as what he said, kind of go-to people when they need anything done. It's extremely expensive. He last year spent about $125,000 on a bridge just for rot. If you walk that bridge, you'll see rot on the flooring in multiple places. He says, when you peel that back, you will find more. Guaranteed, you will find more. Every time they peel back rot, they find more rot. So I'm concerned right now because I walked it yesterday and I'm seeing even more. It's not getting better. So it kind of made me have a little bit more interest in trying to push it to the front of my list of things to do. So he was able to get back with me. He sent me some inspection reports, some contacts. And I think what we're hoping to do is maybe first get an assessment. And I'm not sure if $5,000 is going to cover it after hearing him. But we're going to have to start somewhere for next year at a minimum.
Yeah.
And I kind of want you guys to look at that material, discuss it. We would like to respond in multiple ways. Maybe we can get somebody on, but we're going to have to plan. We're going to have to find dollars and probably need to do that sooner than later. And that's not good news in today's environment, you know. But if you guys take the time as a group and go out there and look at that bridge, you'll kind of see what we're dealing with. And not only that, the security side of things, trying to just keep kids from destroying it and graffitiing it and putting mud on it and burning it and damaging it, kicking boards off of it. I mean, to me, it's almost counterintuitive. But to see that being treated the way it is and it having such a significance to this community kind of infuriates me a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know what I can do except try to keep our side and keep it maintained. But I don't have funding, and I know Brandon's listening. So I know this is going to be one of those Pandora's box as we dig into it, but I think this needs to be one of this group's top priorities, along with whatever else we're doing. But it's something I don't think we need to drop off of our list for a long time. I think this isn't going to go away. I think we're going to have to find annual funding to keep up with the painting, keep up with the wood replacement. And that's where it's at. If we turn our back on this, we're going to lose this bridge. We're already losing. So that's, I'll get off my soapbox, but it's important to this community.
And their bridge out there is a footbridge also, right? And it's not used for traffic?
I haven't seen pictures of it. I had discussion. The way he described it, it seems similar in nature.
Yeah.
It doesn't have traffic over it, I don't think. Sean's nodding his head, so maybe he's seen it.
Yeah, I've been on
Which
it.
bridge are you talking about?
Well,
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
no,
It's
when
just the fact that they spend that much money and it's not like the Shemanic Bridge that you got to keep cars going over. That's just a footbridge that
Yeah.
they're maintaining and it's still that expensive. So
And I don't know is it smaller?
No, when I was down there for the committee meeting, that's one of the things we witnessed. We were at one end, and there was about, I'd say, 6 to 8 high school kids came in on the other end. Shoes were flying off. They were climbing all over this thing, mud. And I think after a period of time, they thought, well, there's a bunch of adults. They're invading our area almost. So they left there and they walked down and climbed through the fencing on the Dollenberg Bridge and went inside there the whole time. And so then after the meeting was over, I hung around a little bit to talk with Susan Thompson. Another carload of kids came in, walked across the bridge, down the bank, across, up the bank, and accessed from the west end, crawled through the fencing on the end of the bridge and went in there. So I stood there and watched a while. I thought, this is ridiculous. So I called it in, and by the time the officer came, I'm sure they had to watch, because as soon as he came in one end, they went out the other end. So then I called the high school, Ralph Brown, and talked with him. And I said, we could use your help here. Just to see this behavior is just, it's tearing up our bridge. And he said, well, we've locked our fence, but he said, it doesn't do any good, Bob. They just crawl over the fence. So that's where we're at with that. I could tell the bridge had really got dirty since I'd been there the last time.
So we even mended the fence, the wrought iron that they destroyed, they swung it out and were bouncing on it, and then it folded it. And so we think we beefed it up even more and put them back on. And we could lock them, but you're right, they still could just climb up in there and around. And
I mean, the only thing I could think on the inside of that Weddle Bridge is if you had to fence it up, 4 or 5 feet, just heavy wire or something. It's sad that we have to think of that way, unless you've got someone sitting there all the time watching, and running them off. But
so I know Brandon's listening, and we talked about security, and I know this is probably a topic that we need to cover to give Jeff better tools, our Chief Lynn better tools, our police officers. And I think that's where we start if we're going to defend this, regardless of the money we're thinking of investing in this thing. We have to save it as well. I mean, they're kicking boards off and different things, and but I think that's where it starts. And maybe Brandon can chime in. I think we're just sitting where we have some funding. We've asked PSA to come and help in some way, and I don't know exactly where it's gotten from there.
Yeah, we've had discussions with Professional Security out of Albany, who's installed most of our security cameras across the city. They are ready to schedule the camera installation for Sankey Park per a former draft outline that we did about a year ago. Now we're just waiting they want half of the cost up front, so they can start purchasing equipment and whatnot. So there will be a small delay on that. We're waiting for most of our accounts payable stuff is temporarily delayed until the mayor returns from a vacation trip, and then we should be able to get them a check next week to get started.
He'll be here tomorrow.
Tomorrow, I can maybe get a signature from the mayor.
So I guess full circle, that kind of lease will give us, once we'll work on that, and hopefully we can start getting some faces with the actions, and maybe Jeff's team or our PD folks can make some communications and connections with people that have been on that bridge. But I think going forward, I have $5,000 so far for an inspection. I'm going to try to get an engineering firm. Last time I tried to get an engineering firm, he didn't come out for $5,000. I will see what I can do. And I don't know how much of an assessment I will get. It may be better that we plan over we're in February. Maybe we plan for next year and we do it in the summer, and do a more extensive, but I will at least reach out to some people, kind of see what that $5,000 will get me in results. And then we can go from there.
With the problems with the bridge, is that something that maybe is worth doing a small article on it in the paper to talk about what we're looking at doing to the bridge, and then with the problems we've had, to give the public some information? Would that help, or is that just going to hinder?
Well, it's one of those things where the people that generally read the paper are not the type of people that we're having issues with. So we can see it, but we can do that. I don't know. So it is an option. My biggest thing is what we can do is maybe in the article, ask the community members, if you see that type of behavior, call it in. We don't need to wait. We just call it in, because generally that behavior stops as soon as they see the car showing up. So maybe the average citizen isn't incredibly intimidating, but when our law enforcement show up, then they scatter. So at that type of thing, we can encourage people, if you see something, you say something, and that's the type of thing. But if they're climbing through fences, they're not doing anything beneficial to the community. So we could go with that thing that we want to invest, and we can also do it as, hey, if this is something that's important, then, you can donate towards these things. We have people with deep pockets that like to support our community.
That's the other side of the coin, not just outreach on the the issues that we're having, but also the condition of the bridge and what it means to the community. And that might be more beneficial in the long run as well.
I think we need to get the school district involved in activities on the bridge or activities to help the bridge, because if we can get those some of the students to have some buy-in, we can get peer pressure working for us, you know. And I'm not sure what that looks like. It could be, you know, maybe make it a source of school pride where you have specially made posters or signs that are put up that celebrate athletic wins, or maybe you do some kind of activities on the bridge that kind of get them involved in it and get them appreciating it. That I think the other stuff definitely needs to happen, and I don't know if that'll even work because it's hard to reach some kids, but I think that we need to at least try that too.
I think too, if you got some kids involved in it, some kids would see what other kids are
Right.
doing and help report. and
Right.
stop.
Well, and then also what we've seen with Sankey Park is that as the good element that we want in the park comes in, the bad element that we don't want goes away. And so if we can find ways to have the public utilize the bridge during the times when it's most likely to be vandalized. I mean, obviously we're not gonna be able to have like yoga on the bridge in the middle of the night, but if there's some community groups that can utilize the bridge and basically keep the kids away. Dallenberg Bridge, I think, just needs to move and needs to be somewhere else. But yeah, there's been some chatter among staff about that.
So if you want to, my pastor's daughter Zoe is the president of the student council, student body, and also in the leadership class. I can run that by her and ask her,
Yeah,
give her input to what maybe they can start doing.
we'd love to do that and make it an agenda item at their next meeting or something like that.
I'll see her tonight.
Does the high school have a senior like area inside? Let me give you an example. Where the school I had was an indoor school, and we had an area that was around part of the gymnasium that was kind of a walkway, and every senior class got to paint it. And it was theirs to maintain and keep clean as a sense of pride. So I don't know. And you put a senior class in something, you give them some territory, and all of a sudden things just start cleaning up. You know? But
It's
then
like
again,
getting
you
the
could
biggest
be-
gang on your side.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, with all due respect, of course, it may come to just shutting the thing down.
Yeah.
That's horrible. That's horrible. But do we close the gates at night? This stuff's happening during the day too, obviously, because it's high school kids or
Yeah.
maybe even junior high school kids over there.
If you close the gate, do they just climb over it?
It's worse when you close it.
That's what I kind of wonder, because then you get evil, like they closed my gate, now I can't get, that's what I would have been like as a kid, because I was an outstanding child.
Yeah.
If you block me for something, I'm going to make sure you know you blocked me.
Well, I think if when we get this is my opinion, when we get the things up so that we can see them doing stuff, and there need to be some consequences that maybe they have to go out on Main Street and say, I screwed up on the Willer Bridge or something with one of those things that they,
Damage board?
you know, or do that on Long Street or do it in front of the high school and say, hey, you know, I tore, yeah, anyway, I don't know that.
Yeah.
Maybe you can't do that, but it's not a very good situation. You know, and it is one of our places. I mean, they moved that thing from way down there to here.
Yeah.
You know, and so, now, I don't know. We may have to put some more money in the budget to take care of some of that, so.
Yeah, and I would agree that we got to come up with something that moves it. And I also would say that just from my tidbits of working with the baseball team on that field, that kids are pretty brazen even against adults. I had kids come out to the field that wanted to fight a kid. And even though there were 4 of us adults, they really didn't care.
Exactly.
They were going to go right through us to them, which would probably not have been good for us since we were adults. So I don't know how you deal with these
Crazy,
mischievous kids today.
crazy.
I mean, they didn't seem intimidated by our presence. And actually, there was a lot of people in the park that day that was being used, parents.
That
of
makes a
kids, and
difference.
They didn't seem to be intimidated by that group.
They vandalized our wet concrete while we were there. And then when we
Whoa.
confronted them, they didn't care.
There were 6 of us with me asking them to leave, and they didn't seem to be frightened a bit.
Wow.
Of course, they feel somewhat legally protected, I'm sure. In a different environment, it may not have been like that, but we're asking them to leave as city officials, and, so they know we're not going to do anything.
Were you in fear of your safety?
I was not personally.
That's the wrong answer. Were you?
But PD did come, and we asked them to come at the same time as we asked them to leave, and they did address them. I think they even kicked them out for 30 days. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we have a good challenge. It's probably something we need to keep on the agenda and look at it going forward and figure out what we can do. I also know besides the city's website, there are some other Facebook group pages that do have some, I'll call them nefarious people in there, that it may be good to get them spooled up on the positive side for the bridge. I don't have any problem writing some things into that area to help that. But I wouldn't do it until there's a common theme that's out there.
Right.
Already posted by the city, and then be able to,
Share it.
yeah, well, piggyback on top of that and push to make the changes that we need to have happen out there.
I mean, we even take it to the next step. We're talking about putting a stage and some sort of a little theater in there. And so
What's it going to look like?
if we don't get our arms around this, where does it stop?
Yeah,
Actually, a newspaper article with a positive spin on it's not a bad thing. I mean, it just save our bridge.
Right.
This is what we're up against, and we could use your help. I mean, I don't think there's nothing wrong with seeing that
Yeah.
splashed on the front page of the New Era.
Right. You're right.
I hate signs, but I want to post no climbing, no sitting, no smoking, and no loitering.
I
don't
think
we can
signs
stop
are
loitering.
signs
Couldn't
are
hurt.
probably not a bad thing, because I know, working with Jeff Lynn's group before, even for people that trespassed on my property, they said if you don't post the sign,
Why
can't.
don't we go ahead and do that?
it gives
With
you.
direction from you guys, if you ask us to do that, we'll go ahead and do that.
I would.
Mr. Moneyman? Hello, Brandon. Wake
Yes.
up.
I had to get to the mute button. I'm here. What can I do for you, sir?
My name is Dave. I'm not on the council right at the moment. Hey, can we use money out of the parks funds to help with the bridge?
Yes, it just kind of depends on what else Dominic and Sean have planned for the rest of the year. We're going to spend a pretty penny on the cameras. We could use the 457 fund. We've tried to leave that alone, but certainly given circumstances, and if there's particular needs that you want to spend it on, it's available.
Okay. We got to do something.
I think some signage would help, especially if you want to enforce it. I mean, if you don't have the sign, you can't really enforce it as much. And they may tag it.
Well, what I was thinking, if we get it pressure washed, get it cleaned, then there's a reason not to have muddy feet up there. And maybe get some paint. I'm not saying paint the whole thing right now, but yeah, touch it up. And then post it, and then start saying stuff.
Who do we, if we do a newspaper, who do we want to go to the newspaper?
I will
She's our
send it, and then we can,
Because I don't have no problem teaming up with you and being right there and pointing these things out
yeah,
and
no,
what
we
we're up
can do that,
against.
because you do have that, sorry. Walk at everybody else about not turning on the mic, and then I did do it. Sorry, Deborah Sue. So, yeah, I have no problem. And what we have then is, because people don't, the majority of citizens here don't know me, but so we need the buy-in of you. And, because you can say Park and Tree Committee, but also you have good standing in the community. Yeah, that's a rumor. I mean, it's the infamous Bob Dalton.
Not Lolly, though.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Uh-huh. So that would be a good thing if I send it out and say, hey, Scott, let's meet, or whoever he sent, Benny, when we can hash this out. We can work on that together.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the words that Greg used should be in there. Because that was,
I'll pull the transcript of this meeting.
yeah. Well, I mean, they're good points.
Well, yeah, I mean,
You are. But I also love the idea of the buy-in from the school. I love that idea.
Mm-hmm.
That having that positive touch, having that is also a great thing. So whoever is, we're going to test.
That's not a bad idea to go back to Ralph Brown and tell him,
Yeah.
have that discussion with him as to what we're
Right.
thinking and get his buy-in.
And the city
Yes.
has a youth advisory committee also.
Yeah.
And hopefully there's some interaction between that youth advisory committee and the student government.
Mr.
Does the
Chairman,
high school-
go ahead.
I was just wondering if the high school do they have a shop class,
Sure.
technical?
Sure.
I
I-
thought they shut that down.
You know, maybe engage the shop class. Geez, even if you got the consultant out there to do the bridge assessment, you know, for a shop class, that'd be kind of I think that would be an interesting kind of basic. And I mean,
That's a
kids
good point.
paint.
Right?
I thought they closed the shop class down.
Well, they do
auto
welding.
shop, the construction and wood
Okay.
shop's still open.
And
Does
there's-
anybody know who's in charge of that program? at the
Well,
high
Mr.
school?
Manley is
It's
doing
him.
that forestry thing.
I
So
think it's
I mean,
part.
It's what?
Part.
Hard?
Yeah, it is.
okay.
So-
Either one of those, I mean, having them come out and seeing what it takes and how there's so many different jobs that you wouldn't think of as a young kid.
Yeah.
But then also, so it gives them buy-in. But if there's something that class can do, if there's any way, I know we have to be careful of liability and all that fun safety stuff, but
They could
think
make
that would
things
be
for it.
good.
Just like in the welding class, they could do something,
Yeah.
to help. And I can tell you, as a kid who took shop class, there are a lot of the nefarious characters in the shop class that are probably destroying the bridge. So it would be good to get them in there.
And I guess
Where that-
also,
it'd be a valid point.
I think a lot of times kids are looking for a place to hang out where they feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And the problem is, of course, it's not the hanging out, it's the destruction part. So, I mean, maybe promote some kind of, I don't know, hang out at certain times or something.
Hangout park for them.
Do something to make it, sure, we don't want to chase you away from the park. We want you guys to enjoy it. We just don't want you to destroy it.
So when I had my students and we adopted Sankey Park, we would do the cleanups in the park, and there would be kids lingering in the park, and I would just go up to them and say, hey, you guys hang out here, what would you like to see? Do you guys want to help us? And they would actually pick up a garbage bag and they would help us, despite the fact that they were skipping school and they weren't supposed to be there. They would still get up and they would actually help us clean, and they would do things. So it's, there's the pros and the cons to it. And plus, when we did the community outreach for the park, we actually went and talked to the kids that were hanging out in the park and, had them fill out surveys. So I think getting them involved, they want to be involved, but I think we're going to have to initiate that. Hey, let's do this in a positive way. So I never had a bad experience. My students were like, you're going to go approach them? I was like, yeah, they hang out here. I'm going to go get them involved. And they were actually, there was maybe 2 that didn't ever want to get involved. So I think having some sort of positive activity might help steer that a little bit.
I think any one of these kids on their own is probably a great
Yeah.
kid. And it's just when they get together, they do stuff that's stupid.
Yeah.
And that's just kids. So we need to approach them with the more positive aspects, things that they can do. But I think we need to get coordinated with the school district.
Well, when we had the fundraisers for the skate park to, get new equipment and stuff, that's what we did too. We got the kids involved. We even took snacks down for them, and brooms and mops and, everything. And they liked it. We said, this is your park. We need you guys to help out. So they did.
Okay.
You know, I was actually just one idea. There's, if you want the kids to have ownership, on the one hand, you want kids to have ownership over stuff so that they don't deface it and make them feel comfortable. But on the other hand, you also want a bridge that looks nice for everybody else.
Exactly.
And so makes me wonder if maybe you commission the kids to do some sort of design for the floor, you know, for something that they can decorate the floor with to make it, you know, their thing, and that way it still looks beautiful for everybody else, and yet the floor is a youthful kind of whatever, something that they like.
That's like in Los Angeles, all the kids that are the graffiti kids, they got them to do the cement under the overpasses and stuff, you know, because they're great artists, you know. Give them something positive to do with instead of destruction.
Yeah. Anyway, we got outreach we can do on that.
Yeah. So feel free to reach out to any of us to help with that, because I think every one of us here has a strong tie into that bridge.
Yeah.
Or anything else that needs to happen with
I
it.
think if anybody knows anybody at the school district that's would be especially helpful in this, that would be good. But otherwise, we'll just reach out to the shop teacher and administration, student government.
I'm curious I don't have any knowledge of the student resource officer.
I don't think he's there right now. He may be.
Yeah.
Because the police department is short-staffed because of the current political environment in Oregon, all the police departments are short-staffed throughout Oregon. So he does do some. He still is tasked as our school resource officer, Officer Hamlin. He is, and with the last week's incident, he has been working heavily on that with local SROs. But he is not able to spend as much time at the schools because he is working patrol. And I mean, even Chief is working patrol. So everyone that's their primary focus there. So so he's still in that capacity, just a little limited.
Yeah, I just thought maybe it might be worth making sure he's aware specifically that he knows of the problem there, and that there could be some level of that at least pops up in your head.
Right.
You know, that I know some of our outstanding youth is participating in getting dirt on our bridge.
But I think the Youth Advisory Board group is a good group to get latched into this one.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I think maybe for the kids that get caught doing stuff, I think if they have to go before our judge, I may talk to him and make them see if he can't do something about some sort of punishment that would be reasonable, but still they have to do something to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
Next time he's in, I don't know when that is. I'll have to figure that out. I don't know what day he's in there, but I'll see if I can get a hold of him and
that might tie in.
I don't know if those kids go before him, if you catch them when the cops take. I don't know. I don't know how that works. If they just go slap them on the hand when they leave, I don't know. I'll ask Jeff. I'll talk to Jeff about that and see if there's some way we can have some sort of accountability for what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it will, maybe it won't. So
I was thinking for some of the funding, maybe we could apply with the Jamboree for when they give money out, you know, and they would, you know, that would be a big help too with some of the people that go there. They could, if everybody gave $1, we'd have $14,000, you know, going towards the bridge. I don't know, something maybe could talk to Robert about too, because they have a huge, resource of people to go to for helping funding.
Well, I think when it comes to the funding, some of these projects that Greg's talking about, I see a real strong possibility of just having a Save Your Bridge project where the community buys into that. I know there's businesses out here would do that. I know there's families out here that would do that, get on board with that. I could just see that Save Our Bridge day. I could see that happen.
It would be really good though, before that starts, to have that engineering firm.
Exactly.
So you have a qualified group that have specified, not that you're not
No, absolutely. No, you have somebody you
Yeah.
have some sort of base report that gives
Yeah.
you some sort of guidance of where to start and what they think you're going to find. And
Yeah,
absolutely.
that would be a big plus. Okay. I think we're good on that.
And I know what you want, Dave. My dad used to have an outreach program work quite effectively with me when I was behaving.
The heck happened? A major failure.
I passed away.
Related to that, I'm kind of curious if you have any thoughts on Dullenberg Bridge on a preferred, what's that? Oh, well, fine. Well,
Hey,
it's right next to
Hey.
Weddell Bridge. Fine, we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about it. I do have some thoughts for you.
Try to get everybody to stay on topic.
I know where, I know what your position is now, but you know what? You can't be just interrupting, the. Yeah. anyway.
Well, you do.
Hey. With all due respect, sir, with all due respect. I said that gets you through everything.
It does.
One more thing on, just so before we leave Sankey, and it was brought to my attention that these center bars that we're putting on these benches are being destroyed by kids, we think by kids as well. They're jumping on them, springing off of them and bending them, and we've had to take a couple of them off. So some of those benches are now turning into lounges. So just know that's another thing that we've been dealing with, so sorry.
Yeah, those weren't cheap.
We put them in
That's a
there for a
design flaw
reason,
then,
so
if
they
I
couldn't be
can't
sleeping in them.
handle the weight.
Golly.
They are a separate piece.
Yeah.
It might be something that I haven't paid attention to the benches, the bars in the middle, but that might be something that the weld shop could help with if it needs a reinforcement rib down the bottom center so that it won't bend.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just 110.
And what about some of those spikes that keep
Yes, like fence.
pigeons
the
off.
spikes that keep the pigeons
I
away?
had my mic off when
Fine.
Well, I know for a fact my
That was a
son,
joke.
being another outstanding kid like me, is in the weld shop, weld class, and he's bored all the time. And because we weld at home, so he already knows how to do it. So that is something he would love to do, is to build something.
But see, we're going right back to behavior.
Yes.
And I hate to see our benches start being welded and patched up after we've spent the time and energy and money on those things.
Well, I
So-
think if you go across the board in Public Works, we've got a lot of pride because I know how much hours and time that these
Yeah.
guys spend trying to keep it maintained and looking good for the people and of the community, and to see if a few of some behaviors that are really causing some magnitude like this. So
I think you can get a welder, a cutter, a person that does one of the, what do they call that?
Plasma
Cutter.
cutting.
They can cut things out. All they gotta do is put a picture or something
Yeah.
and they could make that a pretty stronger thing. And it would look probably just exactly like the one that was there.
Oh, yeah.
So that might be something we could look into. What do they call that? What do they call that?
CNC.
CNC or something? Yeah.
Or you could use a CNC or a plasma to cut the rib.
Yeah.
And then weld the rib in.
Yeah.
Maybe the
Yeah.
high school shop.
And the last thing I'll say on this, because I've had the recent experience with this, is it's not just the kids. It's also our community does not have the will to correct people or to correct kids anymore. And I see that a lot, where kids are doing things they should not be doing. And it's a change in our society,
Sad.
and it's not good. And we're not going to fix that, but hopefully someday it self-corrects, because that's a problem.
But I think the cameras will be a big deal if we can find out who's doing it and then make them accountable to whatever the extent that you can. Maybe they can't leave the school during the whole day or something. I don't know what the answer to that is, but that would be something we could talk about the principal at the high school.
Yeah.
And I know that they'll be helpful, I think. So anyway.
Just out of curiosity, these kids on the bridge, is that during school time or is it like an after-school thing mostly?
All the time.
A lot of it's during school.
That was at 2:30.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
I
still
know
going.
the issue we had on the concrete pour day Chief was saying that a bunch of that group is out of high school age, probably early 20s.
Okay,
But the majority are high, they look like high schoolers.
yeah,
And they're not all, like you said, a lot of them are just there to hang out. And
Yeah.
I've asked them, hey, if I put a trash can here, will you guys use it? And a lot of them are positive. We've tried to like go the nice route and talk with them and kind of work with them, but the other element kind of overrules that.
yeah. Okay, well, let's move on. Arbor Day, that was a good talk. by the way.
It was
good.
Arbor Day, so all except for Blair trying to take us off on another tangent.
Oh. Yeah. He does it all the time.
So I-
Move on to Arbor Day celebration.
So I have a few kind of update things here on Arbor Day. So one of the things you guys asked for is possibly having someone come and sell things. So Nancy Curtis reached out to Krista Ferris, who we used to work with. She used to work directly with Alice Smith here. I work with Krista. And she said that Native Grounds Nursery in Crawfordsville might be, we might be able to get plants from them. Katie, my brain went blank, but I know Katie, she was on the Watershed Council Board. She's part of the Small Woodlands Association. They do some plant sales. So she'd be another one. Krista also says, I also happen to have quite a selection of native plants available to donate if you find someone to sell them. And so there's a couple different options out there that we could look into. And I get back with, I told Krista that I'll run some of these things past you guys. The other part of the plant is I sent you guys, we need to, if we're going to plant trees at Evergreen, we need to get them ordered or
Yeah.
we're not going to have any to get. So I gave you, Lena sent me the examples. There's a couple different places we can order from. We need to get that figured out sooner rather than later so we can get them paid for and get a schedule for Public Works to go pick them up at the time that we're going to do it. So these are kind of, because Arbor Day is coming up in April, these are kind of a high priority. This needs to get decided soon.
How many trees are we looking at?
I would probably need to have everything solidified by the March.
Three trees?
Yes.
Next to go measure.
Yeah, budget wise, it was 3
Oh.
trees
Or
that
at
we had.
least
So I think we had $500. I don't know where Brandon went, but I have it in my other notes, but. Okay.
On number of trees, because I haven't measured out there, so I'm going to look to your opinion in terms of, the samples we have here with the height and the spread, 2 or 3 based on the dimensions. Do you have an idea? Or do we need to just go measure and pace it off?
It's big enough for 3.
Think we
Yeah.
can do 3?
I mean, yeah,
Okay.
it's.
And it's greater than, well greater than 75 feet.
1 feet by
Okay.
1 foot by 50.
Because some of these have spreads of like 25, 35 feet. so-
Yeah,
Okay. So.
but you could easily
So
parse them.
go down the middle.
Yeah,
See all the leaves?
What?
See all the leaves?
Yeah, I love leaves.
But you can, it's park, you can mow and mulch. You
Well,
don't have
and
to
part of
rake.
it,
I bag. I don't leave that crap in my
part of it also was that, that you guys had talked about was reaching out to that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And having that neighborhood be a part of the celebration, and then also maybe helping to maintain it a little bit, because they really want stuff there. So if they want stuff there, maybe they can help maintain it. So that's another thing we need to do between now and April is reach out to that neighborhood and have a conversation with them.
I'll handle that.
you live somewhere near them,
Yeah,
I
I live
think.
in that neighborhood, so I will,
that's
there's
right.
actually a Facebook group that, so I can, yeah, I do. Yeah, so we'll, I can go ahead if we create an event, I can then share it
good.
in that group.
Yeah.
And that's a great, because they were giving feedback, and I said, hey, there's a park and tree committee, your feedback needs to go to them, so.
Yeah.
And they did come, so, and that's the other reason I invited Legia here, because you guys wanted some media and some outreach.
Yeah,
So I invited her here today so that you guys could let her know kind of what your ideas were.
sure. I think something else too, that, because you mentioned that the people who read the paper and different Facebook things, but I think that we really need to have a poster that we put up in different places.
Okay, okay.
I really do, because I don't think if you don't have that, it's not going to get seen by enough people.
Okay,
You know, something that you put up at the 2 grocery stores, places where people are walking, where they would see it and to promote it.
and you're speaking specifically for the Arbor Day celebration?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
My memory, I don't know when I started on this committee, but the first one we had a very good turnout
Right.
at it. But we had different things going on at the event that brought people in, like the trees for sale. In my mind, I can see other things going on, but I think it was because it was teamed up with another
The youth
event
were
at the
there.
time. But since then, it has dwindled each year.
Yep.
So I think to possibly bring that back and to make sure that the community is aware of how many years this town has been a tree city before we start. You know, make sure they understand the significance of it. And, you know, that event that we propose, I'm assuming, helps with our Tree City Growth Award, planting more trees, having a bigger celebration, mark down all the trees that were sold into the community, the trees that were donated into the community that were planted.
There was a recent article, I apologize, Chairman, that in the New Era, I think it was this week,
Yeah, I just got it this morning.
that talks about us being 35 years as a Tree City,
Okay.
USA. So, so that's great. So we can hop off of that and
Yeah.
go into our Arbor Day celebration.
Right.
So, anyway, sorry, I just.
Oh, yeah.
So take a look at the New Era this week. I
And
believe.
it's also the Democrat Herald, so I got an email
Nice.
about it this morning.
Okay.
I will post those for you.
Okay.
Oh, the poster?
Yep.
Okay.
I'll put those out for you.
Thank you so much.
Most businesses will let you put in.
And you said you were gonna buy a tree?
Yes, I'll pay for one of the trees.
The ex-
They're $30, right?
The most expensive one on here.
As long as it's not 3 digits, I'm good.
Oh, 3 digits, well, we're done. It's over.
I did. Is there more than that?
Yeah.
Well, I was looking at the prices here and
I
thought,
saw
you know,
some of
I
the
could probably
prices too.
suit Dave's name to the most expensive
She
one.
outlined some of them, so I'm just gonna pick the cheapest one I can find.
No, the highlighted ones,
Oh.
so if you look on there, it just says the highlighted items were added to the list, so when they. send
Oh,
you,
here
they
we
just
go.
add it. So-
Yeah, it's not the $2.35 column, but that's what you were looking at.
I saw one for $150. That's ridiculous.
And I
me,
put the
I don't
Blue
have
Heron in there because we've gotten trees from Blue Heron before. Alice used to order from them, and so I added them in there. But we also do have Native Ground Nursery that's in,
Yeah.
I
Makes
used to work
sense.
with them quite a bit with the Watershed Council, so.
So you want to decide on these trees now?
We should.
You want to decide on them now?
So.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain that to the group? We were just talking about, not on the side, but.
You dig a hole.
Yeah.
You stick, oh, you mean the kind of tree.
Green end up. So with the selections, most of them do run about 25, 35 feet high and, kind of a spread from 15 to 30 feet spread, meaning this. So they're kind of envisioning a shade tree for a park. There's different colors here. And so for those of you that are more artistic and, you can't hear me.
I can't
Now can
understand
hear-
you. That's
Sorry.
better.
Forgot, have it. So in thinking of the color scheme, like the first one is the crimson maple. That's like a really, really deep maroon. And so, you can go multiple colors. You can have 2 of the same at each end and a different color in the middle. But I know, isn't that pretty?
This one.
You can have all 3 the same. So it's kind of up to, those of you that like the landscape design. The Queen Elizabeth maple, that one is, that's the one by our post office. So if you can remember the color, the fall color of it. We do have, somewhere in town, there's a couple autumn flames that we planted. Those are really kind of deep orange-red color.
I think Thomas at the Rio planted a couple of those.
Maybe
in the park
that's
too,
where
I think.
I've seen them, yeah. Then you get into the silver variegated maples, so that's going to be your kind of more yellow lime color.
Here.
And
Two
so
down.
people, it's up to preference. And I have no preference.
1, 2, 3, 4, five women can make this call.
I say one of-
That's what I'm thinking.
I say one of these.
I have two favorites.
What are your favorites?
Yes.
My favorites are the Rocky Mountain Glow, which is
Yes.
orange,
Mhm.
Okay, the
and the
glow,
Pacific Sunset Maple.
Ooh, so kind of
sunset.
the Nice crimson orangey, yes.
Okay. Why don't we kind of go around and we'll see who likes what, and I'll try to keep track of it here.
So we're doing three.
So,
Three?
oh, you don't have to pick three. You can pick however you want it laid out. 1, 2, or 3.
Come on.
Well, actually, I like them all.
Okay.
I would put one of each. That's just.
Well, you
'cause
can't
I
because
am.
there's more than 3.
That's what I said.
You got
Okay,
Three.
I would pick the
2.
crimson maple first. And then,
Yep. Go ahead.
the Rocky Mountain maple, and then we'd have to have one more, let's see, the silver. There you go. Done.
Silver maple. Bob,
Same.
those 3?
We didn't even talk.
Okay.
You got to have somebody to blame.
Do you have a
Know how to
preference?
work it.
Would you, sir?
I have an idea. You could bookend, you could do two of the
That's what I
same on the outside with, like, if you like the Rocky Mountain color. And then you could do the silver in the middle, which is a totally different color scheme. So you could bookend it since you have 3 to work with. But
Sounds good.
I'm neutral.
Oh, no.
I can't make a motion here, so
No,
somebody.
but you can make suggestions.
No, I like the bright colors,
Yeah.
at least a couple of them.
Yeah, skip you?
No, I just said the same.
Oh,
Which one has the most leaves? That's what we need to know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for Dominic.
Well, he'll probably like the Rocky because it's got really big leaves, so there'll be less of them.
on a
Easier.
personal note, I like the idea of having the ends one color and one in the middle to offset, to drive that as a visual, as you come up through there.
Okay, 2 Rockies and a
You two
silver.
have any
It's up to
preferences?
you guys.
It has nothing to do with that. This is just what you like for a tree, is just as an in general. You're part of the community as well. So I can ask you,
He's asking for
as a
community
park and
input.
tree committee member, I can ask the public what their thoughts are.
There you go.
I found that.
Gina told me
doable.
since she has to see them all the time, she would prefer plastic.
That's why my flowers are.
Aluminum looks nice too.
They fade eventually, but
Well, all the people I know in this community, they love fall. And they like the bright orange. I don't like fall, so it doesn't matter.
Like the
So you like-
Rocky-
so you
so you don't want any trees.
No, I like
Don't you really
trees.
like this one, Dave? Don't you really like that?
Perfect. It's perfect. You just pick 3. I could care less.
As community member, I really like the idea of the autumn flame as the bookends and the Rocky Mountain glow in the center.
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Okay, hold on.
I like that as well.
What are we gonna do? Have to flip a coin here?
It's nice to have some contrasting colors.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
You like that, Dave?
I do love it,
What'd you
yes.
say the first one?
2
like
of
a
the autumn
decision so we can
flames
move on.
And the
and
Rocky Mountain.
then the Rocky Mountain in the
A
middle.
lot of orange.
Brighten it up.
2 flame and a Rocky in the middle, right?
And the autumn flame has smaller leaves than most, so Dominic would be happy.
Be a lot of trees.
I don't know that there's much that makes it.
And the size would make sense too. Because
You
these
talking
are a
about me?
little taller than us.
Now that autumn flame to me looks like a dead tree.
Okay.
They're not very bright.
We'll have other trees too.
Thinking
Yeah.
of the spread of the branches.
These
Yeah.
2 and then one in the middle.
Spread on that one, where the center.
Okay, we'll get back on track and we'll just go ahead and I'll make a motion that we do 2 autumn flames to the outside and a Rocky Mountain glow maple on the inside. Do we hear a second?
I second.
Okay.
And which was the most expensive of those three? Two?
So now we-
That's the one that,
Size, what size?
Big.
You wanna,
As big as I can get them?
yeah, as big as you can get them,
Okay.
just so we're not waiting
Whoa,
around.
is it by the foot?
yeah, so you,
And caliper.
I want something like this.
No,
No?
no, I could have bought you a whole bunch of, little saplings of.
you're not gonna go down to Bi-Mart and buy one of those $29.95
Yeah.
ones. It's just not gonna cut.
So they're probably, the root ball is probably burlapped, so, we'll need some hole digging of
What's the
it.
prices on those?
But yeah, we've had the best success. Think of all the trees along the post office, when we went with big mature trees that are gonna,
I'll get some research done on both of these and try to figure out where to find them at, so. Okay.
We're gonna lose a couple trees at Ashbrook. Well, one that already busted, a top fell out, broke one of the newer trees, and then we need to take out one that's getting pretty rotten.
so that's the other thing, folks. So think of these colors and designs, because we'll have more trees to replace in some of the parks, especially when we get to working, upgrading. And I haven't done inventory on Ashbrook yet, sorry.
Yeah. It's hard to do without.
Yeah, I can do the conifers.
So Greg, at one time you said you were gonna try to get irrigation in there?
Yeah, at some point.
Okay.
We capacity, Public Works is full.
Right.
I mean,
I get it.
So,
I know.
But it's on Sean's long list of things to do. Obviously,
Short list.
Evergreen,
Yeah.
we're gonna make a long list.
Oh, no, it's
So-
on his short list.
Oh, it's not a short list?
if we're gonna invest this type of money into these trees and we're not planting them till the end of April, we've got to get water on them.
Yeah,
I mean-
So
so,
don't you have a water truck?
We got irrigation.
yeah,
It's there, right? You just
well,
need to,
the meter's there. The pipe and the parts should be in this week, and then as soon as that, we're gonna start ditching and get it in the ground. So it's
Okay.
coming up quick.
Talking about
Evergreen.
yes, evergreen,
Yes.
yeah.
So let me confirm our date is the 23rd, correct?
Yes.
April 23rd? That's what's in my mind anyway.
Yes, it's a Saturday.
Yeah, and it's a Saturday before the Labor Day weekend?
No.
No, or not Labor Day?
Memorial is in
Memorial.
May.
Yeah,
But it's
okay.
Memorial Day is the end of May.
Yeah,
April.
that was the date we picked, right?
You're correct.
Okay.
It was just your contact.
Can we back
Yeah.
up just 1 second? We're talking about taking a couple trees out at Ashbrook. We should probably consider replacements from you guys as well when we're doing this, 2 more.
Can we do?
And we
new
can just pay
business?
for those out of my budget or whatever.
Ashbrook for new business.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Taylor was
We'll
Okay.
get there.
we'll come back.
Thank
to
you.
that.
This tree that I have, I'm gonna have a big plaque at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be under the root ball.
Is that a plaque or a memorial?
Oh, memorial.
For-
that
So
would be
did we
more
set on a
Gravestone?
time frame for the 23rd?
No.
Yeah, because that would help Legia and date and time. what
Yeah.
timeframe.
We were gonna have snacks, coffee and stuff.
Yeah,
think-
so
yeah, we
the,
talked about
the
that.
23rd, I would believe that 1 o'clock would be a good time. It's still not hot weather, so it's getting warmer by then. And if you start at 1 and you went till, at the latest 3 o'clock, you'd be lucky to go that long, but you're at least in the warmer part of the day. Any other thoughts on it?
It's good.
Now, the other thing is do you want to have a booth where you sell plants and who would be willing to sell them?
I
Do
will,
you want to, okay, I'll get a hold of Krista and see.
yeah. Yeah, I have a crew that I will bring
Okay.
to do that.
Very cool.
So if we're selling plants, who's going to make contact with Native Grounds? There's also Prairie View Nursery, which is out on 228 between Crawfordsville and Brownsville, and then Gary at St. Em.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so somebody said they knew the fellow at San Em at our last meeting.
Gary?
Yeah.
Everybody knows Gary.
Nancy.
Okay, so Nancy knows Gary.
I know Gary.
So can you take that one?
Yeah.
Can you go talk to Gary? I would,
Gary.
in my mind, I would like it if the vendors came
Right.
to represent their store and did something. I don't know if that's,
Yeah, that'd be neat.
That's true.
well, they're going to sell things, they better make time.
We have the people.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true.
but that's why you have to do the advertising for them and say, these people will be there. So we have about a month to get that done, because then you got to order the stuff and have it up a couple weeks out so that people can plan for it.
With Native Grounds, when we were doing the harvest fair, he'd always just give Alice, a selection of plants that she'd sell and keep that money separate. So I don't think he ever came out.
No, she would set up a table
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. And then there's also
Never heard of it.
is it Green Thumb?
Yeah,
Not too far out of town, so that would be another local. I
yeah.
guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A little about half an hour yet, okay?
So I will take it to go talk to, I know the Storybook guy, because I go there now and then because he's close and he's cheap.
For the record.
Yeah, and Green Thumb. I have not had good luck at Green Thumb with other things, but this may be something they buy into. So I will go personally talk to them this week. Or
And then
next.
maybe report back in March, in our
Yeah.
March meeting, and so we can determine.
Who's going to be there and what their commitment will be.
For a flyer, for the poster.
Correct. Because we're going to need something like that.
So you said there's somebody that knows the person out at Native Grounds, or?
I know the person.
Oh, you do?
I mean, it's been a long time since I've talked to him.
Yeah.
But I probably still have his contact information somewhere. Not that I can't look it up, but yeah, my students, that's where the Watershed Council,
Yeah.
that's what we get most of our clients was from them.
So could you talk to that person?
Yep.
Then we'll have most of them covered. So Public Works wise, is there anything, if we did a work day or to help day up there, is there anything we could do to help with prepping that area?
No, stay out.
Stay out?
No ideas.
No, we're good. Thanks,
Yeah.
Sean. Sean's got it.
Okay.
You guys would probably prep on that Friday, so you don't.
So Sean, as you're thinking about the irrigation and everything, if we're going to do 3 trees, you might just mark where you think they should go in terms
Okay.
of
Sure.
where you're putting your irrigation and
Okay.
spacing and everything.
And a month ago, we talked about the bench that was there, I believe, and it was stored somewhere. It was broken. Is that right? Or is it was just moved?
It was just moved. I think we actually put it in a park, right?
It's at
It's-
Strawberry.
Yeah, it's just sitting down at Strawberry.
Oh, okay. So we should probably leave it there.
We'll bring it back up
Oh,
when we get done with the irrigation.
okay.
That's one thing, if we get some elderly people that are going to have any chairs or anything for anybody,
They might need to bring their own for that type of thing.
that would be good.
The
Bring your
one
own
thing
chair.
is,
I think it would be good for, on the event side of it, that if we have some chairs.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just think it's a good,
I do too.
This is why she does this part and I don't.
Well, it's a lot like when they did the council meet. No, we brought our own chairs. You guys wouldn't even provide those. Council doesn't do much, so.
Oh,
That meeting in the park. I sat in my own lawn chair at the meeting at the park.
oh, yeah.
Council meeting, they weren't chairs for that, were
I
there?
thought that there was some.
Was there some?
Yeah.
There should have
we
been.
put some on the plaza, but
Yeah,
it's,
okay.
we didn't want to make it super comfortable. We were
Yeah.
gonna have to be uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So we can have, but maybe the day of the event.
Oh, yeah.
We can have some help with the folding, having some folding chairs.
We can get the ones out of the hut.
Have a hut and we'll, yeah, and we can have those out. I just think it's just a nice thing to do is to have some out. That's what we're going to be doing for our tree lighting now out front, is because people
Right.
don't think about bringing their, and you don't want to make them haul their own stuff. We'll do it.
yeah.
So,
I would volunteer to go get the chairs
okay.
and take it up there, and then we'll set up our tree selling area
kill the shit out
and be ready to go.
Okay.
Okay,
of it. Mark.
okay, good.
We'll watch you
Somebody
do
can make sure I'm safe then.
Get it in before.
And you guys have easy ups too.
I just want you to describe definition.
That'd be us.
I just want to know where that fits.
And between now and then, we need to think about an inclement weather plan. How do we deal with that?
Umbrellas.
Because it hasn't rained recently, so it's probably going to really take off.
We do have some pop-ups too.
Yeah.
I mean, putting the trees in, we probably wouldn't fit them under the pop-ups, but
Yeah.
for people standing around, we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for the actual tree planting ceremony, we'll get the flag and the stickers and all the good stuff, but it'd be nice to have a celebrity. Maybe, we could actually read the proclamation, out there
Mhm.
and do something like that. So whether it's the mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done that before. So.
Yeah.
In the past.
Yeah.
I'm not a celebrity.
Okay.
I'm that bad kid.
Do
You're the
we want to extend an invitation to the mayor and see if he is available that Saturday?
I think it'd be nice to do that.
Okay.
He won't come? No, I think, just,
Right.
and the same with council members. I mean, we do advise them, so it'd be, a courtesy to invite the council and the mayor.
Well, they need to know what's going on, not just get reports back. See it in action, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Are you laughing at me or with me?
Not at all. The
Cool.
council
All
needs to
right.
know. That was the part of
Okay.
a good group.
I think we're good on Arbor Day. Any others? No. Just out of curiosity, is there any chance irrigation before then?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
We plan on it.
Okay. Just curious, so I can hold you to
Oh.
something.
Hopefully grass is growing as well.
All right. That's great. Thank you. So, new business. Talk about tree removal on Long Street.
Oh,
So
Oh.
one go back.
Okay.
Can we,
They'll go back.
and easy. So when we plant the trees, can we get a few bags of bark mulch so that we've got a grass-free mulched area around them, at least for early on? Just 3 bags of bark mulch. It looks nice.
It'll
Yeah.
be a scoop or two.
Okay.
Second go back.
Okay.
Because we talked about this before, and I think you're the one that brought it up, because I don't have memory of
Well,
this.
this is a property owner that came to me this, in the last couple of weeks. And I forgot to bring the picture with me, but, his name is Andy. Snyder, is that how you say it? Anyway, he owns the building there that's, the Talon Cell is in. And so the tree is actually to the east, off the sidewalk. And it's taken up the sidewalk, and he needs to put water meters and stuff in anyway, and so he wants to know, I told him I would run it past you guys, he wants to know if he can remove it. He said, once he gets the water meters in, he could potentially replant a tree if that's what you guys want, but he needs to take that one out because it's completely destroyed the sidewalk there, and he needs to get some water lines in too.
You want me to
Go ahead.
report? So when I did the inventory on Long Street, I really tried to mark the trees that eventually need to come out or were causing damage. Nothing super imminent, but the tree in question, it's a redbud, an eastern redbud. There's actually 2. There's the one that he was talking about that's really pushing the sidewalk in the parking lot, and then there's one to the east of it, also a redbud. It's got a little bit of push there as well. They don't have the best form. They've gotten pretty long and leggy. And so when I did the inventory, I was like, kind of note to self that eventually they should both go and replace with something more form appropriate for a street tree. And then if you go to the west, so at the edge of that building, there's actually a magnolia, and it's starting to push the sidewalk, and it's got even a worse form. It's just too big for that space. So if you're going to take out one redbud, I'd take out its twin next to it.
So is this something that we have Andy do, or because it's in the right of way, do you guys do it?
Yeah.
I would think that if a property owner wants to do it,
Okay.
he can.
Okay. I just wanted to make
He's
sure
taking
before I
on the
tell him, yeah.
liability of the sidewalk. Replacing trees, that's one thing to keep in mind down the road. Replacing a tree in a sidewalk like that, it's difficult. The roots and the stump, you can't just rip it out with everything else around it. There's other utilities, water, gas, and then the damage of the sidewalks in that area there, that's pretty close to the building.
Yeah.
So cutting them down is easy, but once you
Then you've
replace
got to
it,
deal
it's,
with the root.
yeah.
They have, I don't know if they're 4 foot long kind of tree pits, I guess. But I definitely say they need to go.
I'll let him know.
And then in terms of deciding what to replant, I'd kind of like to tie it to the streetscape plan, Blair. You know, rather than just willy-nilly saying, oh, we took a tree out, let's just put something back.
And he just said that if that's what you guys required, he would replace it. So I think,
We could-
whatever the plan is, I can just let him know that there's a streetscape plan and eventually.
It hasn't been.
The streetscape plan hasn't been formally adopted yet, but there's essentially all the public meetings have been done, all the input's been gathered. It's just them putting together the final documents. But the latest draft that we have does identify trees in that same area. And so I think it'd be wise we know that that's going to probably need to be removed. And if we do plant something, try to plant something that we won't have to uproot later.
So the public knows that property owners are responsible for moving their trees. Because I mean, in defense of Andy, because I know there's been a lot of stuff because of the parking lot and everything. But so I just think it's important that we let everybody know that it's not the city or not, Andy's just cutting down trees now, close the parking lot, now he's cutting down trees. So, just have something saying that, because of the roots and the damage it's doing, et cetera. And then once put water meters in, I think we should probably post that. Just my opinion.
So if he were to take that out, I'm assuming that's something you would definitely want to be involved with, at least because of the city infrastructure that's involved there?
If he took it out or any property owner took it out and it's within the right of way, they have to go through the permit process.
There's a right-of-way permit that he has to get.
Okay.
And there you would have like a traffic control and working in the right-of-way permit, possibly an inspection, a follow-up. That's not our department, that's out of here.
Yeah.
The right-of-way trees have been an issue since I started. And it's this, especially the ones downtown, because the city goes in, the city says we're going to put them in, and then now the city's saying to the property owner, you have to maintain it and fix your sidewalks. So it's been an ongoing issue with that situation.
And I don't know if it's part of the treescape or streetscape plan, but in my mind, if you put in the box that Lena talked about, that the tree fits in as I think I got this right, at least it works at my house. The size of the box depicts the size that the tree can grow to, because the tree will only grow as large as the root system allows. Is that right?
That's right, but some trees will push worse than others. And
Yeah.
So these redbuds I don't know how long they've been there, but they're really pushing. But you also want, the form of these, they're multiple branching, so you want more tall columnar type trees that don't get too high because you got power lines, cable lines, or something above them. So my suggestion is when we really get into Longstreet and the streetscape is really, we have a hodgepodge of species and varieties, shapes and sizes, is really take a look at what, like uniformity, and then of course the right tree for the right space.
Aren't there things you can do with the tree well that you can direct the roots in certain ways?
They're, I forget what they're called, but they're basically, you're putting kind of walls down in the hole where you're planting that kind of keep the roots from.
I guess I'd also heard about, basically you have essentially tunnels that are sandy soil or whatever in different directions that you basically you're planning on those routes going out so that they don't buckle your sidewalk. But
Yeah, there's different things we can do, but most of our tree planting spaces are pretty darn small.
hopefully we can enlarge those also with this new plan. And there's more room in that right of way that we can utilize.
Speaking of roots, did you guys ever finish the roots that were in the meeting for the beautification committee?
No.
I'm supportive of it.
Yeah, so if there's 3 trees and he's taking out 1, how does that work?
Well, I can let him know that you guys said if he wants to take out the other 2, he can take out the other 2. This is just one. He's got a plan for this area, and he may have to put in some water meters, and so it's right where about that area where the tree is, and plus the buckling of the sidewalk. And
I doubt he's going to want to remove any trees that he doesn't absolutely have to.
Yeah.
But I can let him know.
But sure.
But I'd say tell him we appreciate, that he would plant a tree back, but let's wait until we have the bigger plan. So we're not just putting a tree where one came out and it's maybe not the right space.
Right.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
Okay. Tree removed.
We need to go back.
Yeah.
These are like this.
We need to go back to Ashbrook for Dominic's report.
I guess. Thank you.
All in favor.
Okay, so let's
He's the chair.
Aye.
let's go back to Ashbrook and talk about the dead, dying trees there.
Yeah, there is some.
Yeah.
There's 2 up front. One was a smaller tree that broke. It's just a stub now. And then there's another, some sort of a big leaf tree. It's kind of a maple type.
Like a maple?
Yeah, it's some sort of a maple. It's pretty rotten. And there's also one back by the basketball court that needs probably to come out. It's got a big hanger and kind of ugly.
Okay.
So,
Or safety hazards.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with removing trees that need to come
well,
out.
it's not. I'm not necessarily asking to remove them, but what do you want to see?
Go back.
Because I think we probably need to do some replanting.
Yeah.
Especially in that part.
So I was supposed to do inventory out there, haven't got to it.
Okay.
So I will get that done before our March meeting.
And somebody at one point planted some little pine type trees, and a couple of those got broke.
Beat up.
They were just little guys, and yeah, I think there might still be one.
Yeah, I remember doing the tree planting out there years ago.
But I always thought that was kind of odd. You had like a couple of pines out by themselves. And,
Yeah. So in March, we could bring it up on their tree plotter and talk about the different trees that are there, and then talk about which ones are coming out and what to replant. Is that good timing?
yeah,
Okay.
I think any of the planting, especially like what types, would be
Sure.
good help for us.
I'll get that done.
Okay.
So Lagia, do you always just tell people why we're taking trees down?
It really depends. If we are, and I know you mentioned something about Andy, we don't typically report on what private citizens are doing. If it comes to head, we can always answer that he brought it to this committee. But we don't typically, because I don't even see who submits permits for those. But when we're going to do removals, we try to put something out to say, even if it's a quick little blurb, like, hey, it's broken or whatever. We did that with the median trees, which we got a lot of feedback on that. So, and we don't die from feedback. We just.
One thing we could do is, when we get a permit application and we know when Andy's planning on removing trees and stuff like that, if he gives us a heads up on when exactly, we can put out maybe an informational little blurb that says this is work that people can do within the right of way, and you get a permit to do it, and
That's good.
so that you can kind of, at the same time, when people are noticing this tree going down in downtown, at the same time you have information on how a private party does that.
That's good.
And so that it's not, I mean, you can kind of, it's almost like you're talking about something different without talking about
Right.
the thing that that's really going on, but it's information that anybody could use, and that way we're not necessarily pointing out anybody in particular.
Right.
We can just say, hey, if you have property on a public right of way with street trees on it, these are your responsibilities and these are your options.
Yeah.
And you would need to get a right of way permit for these things.
And then you can always throw in that we have a plan for how to replace these trees too.
Well, or we can specify that, the city council will soon adopt our streetscape plan, which will include tree locations and species. And we will work with private property owners to promote that plan.
This is recorded. Yeah. Pull that transcript and use that. Thanks so much.
I can wordsmith anything you want.
And Blair said.
Okay, so I think we're good on Ashbrook and Street. Let's talk about the Dolan Bridge.
So real quick, before we go to Dollenberg,
Yeah.
so I have on the roundtable discussion, so you have an email from Bob. He sent it to me last night, but if you guys will read that, it's from the north side. We don't need to discuss it today, but read it and maybe we can discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah, not only read it, but I'd like all of us to go take a walk down there and take a look at it.
Yeah, since that was the part that you guys kind of identified as a priority, but I wanted to make sure you had his notes and then you can discuss them at the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Willie.
So where are we moving Dollenberg to?
I just brought that up because it was related to Sankey, and staff has been talking about it lately. I mean, Dollenberg Bridge has been a problem for a while. It hasn't been officially publicly accessible, and it's kind of tucked back in there, easy to be overgrown with various stuff. It doesn't serve a purpose where it is. It's kind of a shame to have it where it is, but it would be good to get some feedback on various ideas of where it could be moved. There are two options that have been discussed among staff. One is to have it be placed over to cross Ames Creek right next to 12th there near Sankey Park, and it would be incorporated with the sidewalk so that, well, there's no sidewalk there, but eventually when there is a sidewalk, you'd have people crossing that instead of walking on the roadway.
Blair, it's actually 14th Avenue.
Is that 14th?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry, not 12, 14. Sorry. So that's one location that it would basically be a part of Sankey Park still, but more used within the right-of-way of 14th than in the park. Another option that was talked about is here next to City Hall.
Yeah.
Have it be part of that park.
I like that.
But really, all options are on the table when it comes to that. It's just you want a bridge to actually span something and have it be usable rather than decoration. But it does need to be, obviously we've seen what can happen to a bridge when it's in a tucked away, out of the way area. It becomes a haven for vandals and things like that. So we want it to be very visible and an asset to wherever it is. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. If anything that staff should look into when it comes to other locations that you have in mind or that we're not thinking of.
I'd like to know Greg's thought on moving it and what condition you think it's in before we even talk about that. Because if the Sankey Bridge has been lightly maintained, right, over the last few years, that one probably hasn't been maintained since it was put there.
Yeah,
I'd hate to
I don't
waste time
know. I
thinking
think-
about moving it and find out it's rotten. It's just
good point.
junk and it goes to the dump. Just if you're standing in the Sankey looking at the bridge, it's to the left. It only just sticks out.
I think we would have to look at it. I think look at the logistics of it, trying to figure out what it would take to get it off there, professionally moving it and then taking it off a vehicle.
Yeah.
I think personally, it isn't doing us any good where it's at. I think it's causing more places to hide.
Yeah.
And activities down there that I think if we could get it out of there and put it somewhere, or at least store it behind here until we figure out, it could potentially help with some cleanup and some things on the other side. I don't know what condition it is. We would have to look at it. We'd have to see what it would take to get it moved. It would have to be obviously moved as a whole structure. It would take a large crane on a stable platform to pick it off there and then move it to a place that we could put it on something. That would present itself, I think, a challenge. And I would imagine it would have to be done in the summertime on the school grounds. I don't even know if we could do it to the other side.
It's actually our property, but yeah, it'd be nice. It would just be
Flat ground.
well, probably a little bit harder ground.
Yeah.
I met Mr. Dallenberg about 4 years ago when we were looking at it, and it was actually in better structural shape than what you would have thought.
Okay.
Of course, I haven't looked at it really in 4 years. Moving it would be a challenge, but probably not as bad as what a person would think. It seems like there was eight bolts to take off it. If you had it supported underneath, I think we could lift it. Possibly with one of the loggers in town at the time was pretty interested and willing to do it. It would be just finding a place.
Okay.
I think the one place, Joe Grable and I looked at that because we walked through the park. The bridge was in good, solid shape in a sense. Oh,
Sorry. Anyway, Joe Grable and I looked at that, and we looked at the condition of it, and we was talking about slinging the, picking it, doing a pick, swing it to a flatbed and moving it. Our thought was down below next to 14th to tie Sankey over to the other side, to that portion
That's what Blair was talking
and that's what we were talking about. How do we tie that? If we float it, not float it. Well, I guess we could float it if we got the water up high enough, but move it down there and locate it where it ties the sidewalk to the other side as a walkthrough is kind of what Blair was saying. Now, I don't know, maybe another alternative for it, and I never thought about it until we was talking about moving it, is I know Joe in the plans, we talked about putting some sort of a bridge outfit, tie in the senior center side upstream, but I don't know if that is doable or not.
It's not big enough to span across.
Well, I know it wouldn't be. You'd have to do the base of it just right, but
Well, and I think going across Amescroft would be good, but I think cost is going to be a big part of that. I always thought it would be cool. You come into town this way, there's one. If one was out at Shea Point, somewhere on that path, maybe.
Yeah.
And you got one on each end.
I like the idea of moving it to City Hall because you're gonna have a park here and you can use it for advertising. We have Sankey Park, you can have a kiosk and just all that kind of stuff.
There's better eyes on it here too.
Yeah,
but-
I just like it here.
I think you could make it part of a playground out there.
Yeah. For the dogs.
Just or photo ops. I mean, I love
Yeah.
the idea
Photo
of
ops.
decorating. I'm just jumping in there. I'm not a part of the committee. I know. Sorry, but having it as a photo op and having it for people to come and get their pictures. I mean, they're here in Sweet Home, and this can be a thing. Yes, Weddell Bridge is the thing, but this is easily accessible. We can decorate it at Christmas time and different things. So it could be one of those, warm, feel-good kind of PR kind of things. That's what I think of it here, whether it's in that park right there or right in that middle section by the Christmas tree.
And if Morse Brothers ever gets developed, there's a lot of potential down there on actually over something water.
So I guess just thinking about this, we have a number of options that we could do. What staff could do is put together essentially just some more details on these different locations and how it would be placed, so that it could be then recommended to the city council. But I'm also wondering, okay, it seems to be in fairly good shape the last time people checked it out. Is it in any imminent danger? Is there any reason why we should move it away from where it is now and temporarily store it until we have the right place for it to go.
My opinion, let me jump on this one. My opinion would be it can help. There's a lot of hiding places that's being used. The concrete abutments for that Dallenbach Bridge, people can hide in it and around it. There's logs, there's berry bushes that are taking over that area. I mean, we try to keep up with it. So visibility for that side, aesthetics, I think it would help with what we're trying to accomplish down the road with Weddell Bridge.
It's kind of my worry.
So that's my only advantage that I see moving it prior to understanding where we're going to put it. So.
And Dominic, you stated that possibly there was a logger that was willing to make that move.
Possibly,
Oh,
yeah, if
kind
their
of.
equipment was big enough.
Yeah, so maybe the cost would be minuscule to move it in the short term, set it somewhere until we know where to put it. But we could
put it on small concrete
yeah
abutment, or just to get it off the ground and put it out here and store it behind fencing until we were ready to do something.
That way it's in a secure spot.
Yeah.
Or
Okay.
even store it out
Store
front
it level
and make it a topic
yeah.
where it goes.
Where's my new home? Yeah.
Okay, so let's put that on our agenda for next month, and we'll take a look at the locations and
We'll see if we can get some options pulled together with some rough maps of how it would be.
Yeah. Okay, any others? Meeting adjourned.
Wait, hold on a second.
No.
I was making a note. No, really quick. Greg, do you want to speak to the wastewater treatment plant and our needs with Pleasant Valley Boat Ramp?
Yeah, I've talked about this, I think, a couple of meetings ago about us potentially shutting that down. As we're finalizing phase one, this project's going to be phased into two phases. The first phase is that upper area that is what we call greenfield. There's just some old buildings. There's no existing treatment equipment at all or tanks in that upper area. That's going to have our one giant enclosure at kind of an L shape and an admin building, and then some process buildings to get the trash out of all the waste. And all that's going to be up on the upper end. And the plan's kind of coming together. The way we're going to have the entrance into this plant, that restroom that sits right there could potentially not only impede what we're doing now barely, but we know that we will potentially need that real estate in the future. We're thinking about moving the fence lines out a little bit and redoing a whole new road or paving a whole new road down into that. What is being suggested is that we're going to take that restroom, and it's not finalized yet, but that restroom is portable, just like what we put in at Sankey Park. As a part of that construction project, we will then relocate that bathroom, run all the utilities to it, give you some parking spaces and a cleaner environment down there than what you currently have. Once we know exactly how that's going to be, we'll come back to you guys and tell you exactly what the project's going to do, but it's going to be all tied into that project. There won't be an expense. There won't be something that the Park and Tree Committee will need to do other than allow us to move some things around and make some improvements down there. And the people that use that boat ramp after we're done will see the amenities improved. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at right now. And literally, I told them I didn't want to see that restroom being moved for literally 20, 30 feet. But I think we're going to move it even closer to the boat ramp. We may move it down by that tree that's down in the lower area. There's going to be better access and kind of clean up things down there. So people are using the boat ramp. The restroom would be right there. You wouldn't have to walk up to the entrance. So.
But it would need to be closed for construction.
It will be. We are still planning on closing it, using that whole property, moving some fence lines, repaving down the road, and so that restroom will come out. I'm going to need to work with our communication specialist to communicate with Lynn County Fire District. So those are some things internally that we need to discuss.
How long are we talking of a closure there?
I don't know. I can get that information, but it could be as soon as July.
But for duration,
The length.
Yeah, I got the duration, but it could start as early as July. The first phase, we're not just doing the first phase, we're doing a second phase. And it probably would be moved on that first one, but I can get that time frame. I would say at least it's going to be a year.
a
for
year
that
that it
first
would be
phase.
closed.
And then we're going to go into phase 2, and it could be even another 2 years, a year and a half after that. So
Oh, wow.
let me get you the time frames of both phases.
So, so you're talking a year and then open for a little while, and then a year and a half for the second phase?
Well, phase 2 is going to start while phase 1 is in construction,
Yeah.
and hopefully it's the same contractor.
Yeah, I'm just
But-
worried
So
about
it could be an overlap of, the whole project's a little over 2 years. So it could be a long duration.
I'm just worried about that. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Well, what we talked about
For a
was
heavily, for
for
pretty
emergency
well.
use, the county, sheriffs, I think the fire district would need to get access. I'm more concerned about the activities of floating from up above down and people using that as an exit point.
Yeah.
And so signage needs to be done at, we need to advertise, we need to put signage at Wiley Creek, letting people know that you can't exit there. I mean,
That's just a huge impact to we have a
For
lot
2
of
solid years.
fishing and a lot of tourists, that's one of the things that is done is, and if they can't pull out until Waterloo,
I think we're missing a real opportunity here.
North side.
Yeah, because we talked about using
pull
Northside
boats
Park
out
and
there.
developing, you can pull out there though if you're just floating.
not a
You can't
boat.
take a
Well,
drift
yeah,
boat
but you
out.
can't take a drift boat out. That's more the
Right.
concern is the drift boat issue.
Yeah,
That's 2 days away. I'll have that done tomorrow.
But please keep in mind, this is going to be not just a house construction site. We're going to have cranes, we're going to have blasting,
Yeah.
there's all kinds of stuff that's going to occur here that we don't need Joe Public around. I'll be honest.
yeah.
I don't want him around. I know the contractor's going to have control of this site, and their safety person is not going to want people
I
around.
wouldn't want.
Is there any way to have, I mean, are they going to be a 7 days a week site?
No. Well, control of the site. See, what I envision is using that property as construction trailers, and if you guys tell me no, then I guess I'm
We gotta
within the
find-
boundaries of everything.
Yeah.
As a fisher, a guy that likes to fish, and you shut that down, you're going to have a lot of people not happy.
It's temporary. I don't know what
Yeah,
else
but
to
it's
do.
temporary in the wrong time of the year.
Hey, Dominic, just out of curiosity, what would it take to put it where you could pull a boat out at Northside?
Well, I need her to leave the room.
No, I live right there, and if you could pull it out, it would be great. I mean,
I know.
I have city property right below me
I know,
too, and it's the grade. It's a slope there. I mean, there's no way you
There's
can,
actually a road
on the
on
far
the
end
far
of North
side.
Side, yeah.
down.
But it would take.
Is that where we put the tractor in the water?
No, that
Oh,
I mean, the far
shoot.
side is in the north side of the river?
No, it's the north side of the park. The
Okay.
north side of the park, there's actually the grade isn't as steep, and it actually slopes down a little bit more, but then.
Is there
you've got-
exit points on the other side? Before?
I don't know.
it's all
There
private
is,
property.
but there is,
On
but it's
property.
private property.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's all
It-
private property.
I mean, is there any potential for using that road for
Drift.
to put boats in?
Or
We'd have to
take
put
them
a
out.
whole- we'd
Yeah,
have to
it
do a
would-
driveway
As
to
far
the-
as Waterloo?
Now would be the time because Northside doesn't have irrigation or anything yet. So driving across the field when damaged.
Yeah. But on the river part of it, is that feasible? Because I mean, I'm thinking of boat ramps being concrete ramps,
Oh,
but
you can rock.
you're talking just river rock, basically.
yeah.
I mean, feasible to me, yes. To somebody that you start getting around the waterways, I don't know.
I mean, for the average boat that uses Pleasant Valley, though, it could one of
Well, but this is something that probably is gonna have to be posed to the Corps.
So let me,
Oh, yeah.
There's a
Because of
gravel
the south
boat
end
ramp
end.
all the way up above Green Peter on the left side, and I put my boat in there. And I
Most
don't
of-
have a little drift boat.
Most
I have a
drift
big
boats
boat.
pretty
so.
easy.
Yeah.
To get it. I mean, there's even some places like over on LC and Stiletz that have slides.
Yeah.
Down and you can winch your boat up or
So I would say the biggest hurdle is gonna be the Army Corps, because the Army Corps is the one that regulates the river. So
Oh.
it's not just because
Yeah.
the park is ours, doesn't mean that
Oh,
we
yeah.
can do it. 'Cause
Right.
it's the Army Corps
Right.
that actually regulates what's in the river, and so it would have to probably go through them first.
So,
And
I
my
mean, that's
history, my
that's
history with
something we
them
could-
is not good. Not
I
me
mean,
personally.
We could try it,
but
but it's not
working with
anything that's gonna be done before construction.
Let me take this back to the team. Let's talk about maybe preserving an alley.
Yeah, and I don't want to throw off the project or anything. I think, in my view, the wastewater treatment plant project is the priority. But at the other end of things, we need to make sure we can mitigate as best we can, because the blowback is not gonna be fun.
Right.
So if there's a way to preserve an alley and people park at
It's
like
not just
White
preserving
Park
the
or
alley.
something
I mean, you
across the
got
street.
construction trailers, you got staging of just ongoing equipment coming in.
Yeah.
And you got this logistic nightmare of
Right.
controlling. And I just know on these big projects, if you can shut things down temporarily, it just makes things access. Human nature is people want to go there and look at the fences and
Oh yeah,
see what people are doing. And
that's what
and from a construction side, safety side, you're like, what is that person doing? Get them off my site.
yeah.
You don't even want them around.
Yeah.
And we're inviting that. And so that's what I struggle with. Obviously, I do fish. I do not want to impede anybody. I'm just thinking of the bigger picture of making things simple when
Right.
your contractor's got control of that site. And it won't be the city site anymore. It'll be their site,
Yeah.
safety wise.
I think we do need to look at Northside, at least for the safety side of it. It gives something that the fire department can get their raft down to, because they used it 3 times last
Yeah.
year, and one of them was pretty critical that they were able to use Pleasant Valley.
Right. And it's nice to have that amenity, frankly.
Well, it would,
But-
Bob has talked about signage for Northside Park. If you want signage, make it the place you take your boat out.
Well, the signage, so we were talking about this, we're gonna have to do some heavy-duty signage up at Wiley Creek, because when people put in, if
Yeah.
they don't know they can take
Yeah.
out, and
Yeah.
they have to go all the way to Waterloo, they're not
Right.
gonna be
So
thrilled about that.
We
So-
already need to talk to the Army Corps about that, about signage. And so while we're talking to them about that, we can also bring up what's the possibility of some sort of boat access at Northside into the river, and see what the process is. I don't know what the process is, and it may take so long that it's not even worth it.
Just a alternative, and I think there used to be one there. You went down Clark Mill Road. Was there not the Saniam Steelhead Group had a takeout down there?
That's not very far, though.
I'm sorry, I have another meeting I have to get to.
I know there was another
one
alternative.
that
It's
started
it's
this.
further up.
They're,
I'm trying to.
There
where
might
the-
be
Imagine walking away.
47, but that's on private. All
Well,
that's
I understand that, but my point being is,
it
It's an
seems like, it
alternative.
seems like if you went down Clark Mill and you went on the far side of the east pond, I think there might have been
Fire
a,
department used to clear a lane.
yeah.
Um,
And there is a spot there, I believe, if I could be mistaken. I'll ask those
it
guys. and then
seemed
we'll-
there was a spot.
Yeah, I
there
think it was
somewhere.
too. It might have been pretty steep, might have been pretty short and steep, but yeah, I think you're right. I hate to admit that, but I think you're right.
You don't have to.
I'll ask Zach and those guys
We'll
to
just drive
see.
down and look at it, Dave.
Yeah,
We'll walk them.
yeah, but you've got to walk a long way, and it's raining.
Now, we were talking fire department. We can easily have fire department have their own access into this construction site on an emergency basis. I mean,
Yeah.
those are the types of things where we can allow those things and we coordinate with. Again, and I'm just concerned about Joe Public, rafters, people that really didn't need to be down there. So
I also think like I said, it's a real opportunity to use Northside Park as a takeout. If you could move that to that location, I think that would be a big win, and then keep people away from the water treatment plant.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's-
period, just
there's-
going forward.
And I would say you don't want it any closer to Wiley than Northside, because there's some fishing holes that are
Yeah.
closer to me and Pleasant
Right.
Valley that people will want to come down that far.
Yeah, and from north side to there is just a short, and it's fairly shallow through there, so. No?
No.
Well, I thought it's spread out in that one spot because I was fishing and kept catching
Yeah,
rocks.
next to the big rock thing, that's not shallow.
Okay.
Right there.
So anyways, my opinion, that if we could get something in the north side, that would be a big plus for the park, for the community, and you're gonna bring in people that you want there to help keep that area cleaned up.
Now considering, so one thing to think about at Northside, which I think this is a good alternative, but are you going to make this a temporary thing? Because you also had suggested a dog park at Northside and some other
Mhm.
things at Northside. So will this be temporary just during construction? Or are you going to have this be a permanent thing and then work all the other ideas around it? I mean, that's also something to think about.
I would, in my mind, since I already thought about all that, because I had time while everybody else was talking and I wasn't listening, was that you put it in as a temporary, and if it works well, you
put a-
make it a permanent.
You put a parking lot and a dog park with there,
Yeah,
just like you have at other places.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it
it's
put-
just something to think about.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because somebody's had their dog locked up the whole time they were fishing, and it's got to pee somewhere, so you might as well have a dog park.
But like Angela said, she has to talk to the Army Corps first about even doing that.
Well, you may not get that approved. You may not get that approved. They're very, very difficult from my history.
Yeah.
That they are very picky and they are very, the reason I know this is because the fireworks back in the day when I was, and it's hard. It's very hard. And some of it's like an act of Congress to get stuff done from them. And so, however, this thing that he's talking about, that's not an option.
Yeah.
It's going to be done. And I tell you what, it would be ugly.
Well, then
It would be ugly. But, if we could find some other,
What'll be ugly?
not shutting that down for the fishermen, that would not be good. Maybe when it stops raining, in August, we could buzz down there to Clark Mill and walk over there and see, because I'm almost 100% sure that there's one there, right where that goes,
It's way out. It would take a lot of work to open that up for public.
And
Well,
it's
you're
not-
just a Debbie Downer.
No, I'm a realist.
Well, that's part of the reason for this conversation, is because Legia is going to be
Yeah.
the point of communication here. And so getting this out long before, so we're waiting on a conditional use permit, which comes through my department, which should be done in April, the beginning of April, and then they can get started. But she needs to get communication out way before this starts. And so that's where this conversation and having this, and that's the whole purpose of having this, so.
Yeah, especially if it's gonna be July, right in the middle of
Yeah.
the season. I do have contact information for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, so we can.
I'd like to be
reach out
involved
to
with
them.
that as well.
I love the idea.
I'd like to be involved with that.
They have a deal, they raise their boat up.
Like a little wind.
They
Like an
raise
elevator,
it up.
hand crank thing.
I think it was a point that you made that I caught, at least I think I caught. You said at Northside, there has been a road that goes down to it, correct?
Yeah, there is.
So this may not be putting in a new boat ramp. This may be just opening up for use, the ramp that has been there.
It's grown over, it'll have to be.
That's what I'm saying. It's one thing to ask to put in something brand new. It's something else to just say, hey, we're just notifying you, we're going to clear this area and use it as our boat ramp, our temporary boat ramp while that is being worked on.
And then the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt
So-
about that private, that used to be the Steelhead Association. If you couldn't get that group to be a part of people that are fishing,
But you have to think about the access too, because Northside is short, going from the road right into there. Some of the stuff down by the
No.
mill, it's a lot to get down in there.
the one I'm talking to is back up Green River Drive stretch over there. It used to be the old mill site down there for Midway. There's a road right there.
Oh, I know what you're
So
talking
you're-
about, Stocks, yeah. We used to
Yeah.
take the kids swimming down there. Yeah, I know what you're
Down the
talking
road.
about.
And I knew that the Steelhead Association, that's what they use.
Right over the railroad
But I think
tracks,
that,
just a little further.
that's where Lenager Shop is now, and they used to be tax property. But I think this might still be
Is that up
tax.
Tuck Mill?
It's just
So-
over the railroad tracks.
So just to let you
Right
guys
around
know,
the
that
corner,
probably will
right?
not work. We have a subdivision that's coming in and
Put it
March
on
3rd
hold.
is the application process for that and they've been pushing through. So they will be doing road work and stuff up there. So that's probably not an option.
Okay,
More apartments.
well, let's make sure this is on our agenda for next month to talk about it. And
All the people I didn't-
I'll just say the meeting was over 20 minutes ago when I wrapped on the table, so that was it. Yeah.
It's up.
All right.
We'll see you
That was a
guys
good topic.
in a month.
With that one.
Hey, for the team, make sure you go take a look at Northside Park, this bridge area at 14.